As far as I'm aware, I might be looking on today. Right, so basically up in the air, like, right. Yeah, right. Yeah, I think it was budgeted that way, like, yeah, yes, like, yeah.
Oh, sorry. All right, we'll try again. Good morning, everybody. Welcome to Government Apps. I apologize for being late. I had traffic issues. We only have one main thing on our agenda right now. It's for the Fort Ann Barn Engineering, and I believe they're online with us. Do you want to introduce them, Matt?
And it looks like we're froze up, but our main presenter. So today, ME Engineering has done the study for us. It's completed. I think Beth is going to lead off the presentation. Beth Coker. She's been the main contact for ME Engineering. Beth, can you hear us?
Yep, I can. Good morning, everyone. Thank you for having us part of the meeting here and allowing us to present what we've been working on for the past few months for you guys for a shared facility located in Fort Ann.
Yeah.
I think our intent, Matt, is we're going to bring up our report and kind of walk through that with folks. So I need to be able to share the screen to bring up the report. Is that possible?
Yep. So you should be able to share screen down in the bottom on this one. You have that, Beth? There you go.
Yep. Can you guys see it now?
Yeah.
Yes. Right. You could probably blow that up, Beth.
Yeah.
And it,
How does that work?
Yeah.
Everyone see it?
Yeah, Beth, we can see it.
yeah,
Okay. So this is a report that we prepared and presented to the county. We basically were looking at the existing shared facility for Washington County and Fort Ann that's on State Route 149. So we went through a process of evaluating your existing facility, evaluating the needs for potentially a proposed new facility and coming up with the proposed floor plans, some site concepts, and a cost estimate to go with our proposed idea for where we see this going, how we see this going forward. So the first step we did was kind of took a look at what your existing facility is, and we sort of walked through a process with that. John, do you want to go through sort of the existing building, and then we'll go into the existing site?
Sure. Do you want to scroll down, Beth, or you want me to take over the screen?
And probably, if you want to grab control, that's fine.
Yeah, let me see. Let me see if I can go in there. And, okay. Can everybody see the drawings up?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. I'm John Sharkey from Untitled Architecture. We're working with Beth as a team to do the preliminary design for your facility. So basically, after several meetings, we looked at doing a shared facility between the county and the town. And after a few meetings, we come up with the proposal that we have here, which wanted to take in sharing, administration area, toilet facilities, storage, things like that. So if you look to the left side of the screen, this would be the.
Hang on, John, I think we have somebody that's not muted. It sounds like Roger, but I'm not positive. We have a second meeting coming into
Oh, okay.
our audio here, so it's making it hard to hear.
Okay. You want me to hold off for a little while?
I think, Melissa just went to see who we were hearing.
Oh, okay.
I don't hear it now. Yeah, Darryl will do the technical for you. Go ahead, John. I think we're.
Good now?
I think
Okay.
whoever.
Okay. So the facility right now, if you look at the square footage, we're at about 22,328 square feet based on the bay sizes and the amount of bays required by the town and the county. The county is on the left side. They had wanted 4 bays. So we're basically showing 4 bays here. There's also a little mezzanine here for a sign shop. We wanted to do drive-through bays to make it work much better. So there's overhead doors on either side. We did do Matt and Beth's group and Kevin Kelly from Weston and Sampson and us went to the Kingsbury facility just to see what they had out there. They liked their facility. One of the things they didn't like, though, was they wished the building was a little bit wider to get 2 trucks in there either side with the plows. Their building was 90 feet deep, and we made this building 96, so that'll work fine for what they had. They said if they had a foot or 2 on either side, it would have worked good. So that's what we did here. So the building's 96 foot deep, and it's 230 feet wide. So it's a good sized facility. Again, the Washington County 4 bays are on this side. We also have a staircase here to go up to a mezzanine that I'll show you on the next drawing, a shared mezzanine between the town and the county. So the front entry here would be a joint front entry. Come in the main area, and there's an office on either side to be shared. And then the toilet facilities are also shared between the 2 facilities. Then once you get past there, the county would have a storage area on the one side, and they would have their own break room on this side. And then the town would have their storage room and a break room on that side. So we put them back to back to save money on, utilities, but they would be separate break rooms. And then we also have our own separate entrances. You have a main entrance here, but it's also side entrances on here and here. Same on this side. The town wanted to have 6 bays. So that's what we're showing. And one of the bays, they wanted to have a wash bay for trucks. So we have wands here in this bay with a trench drain. And then they also wanted a service bay for cutting and welding. So we're showing here. We also got some comments back from both the county and the town about where they want drops for certain things. And again, this is very preliminary, but right now we're showing compressed air, water, and electric at each overhead door. And then also with each column in the middle drops there so that you could work on each vehicle at the same time. So that is the main floor. And then if you go to the next drawing, we also show a mezzanine if you recall, as you come in the front door downstairs, this was the vestibule area, and then when you go up the side, there's a staircase that comes up. So this was a very efficient way to do a mezzanine. It wouldn't increase your fire area, but would allow you to have storage, part storage, or whatever you needed to store upstairs. So the county side would be on this side. The mezzanine side would be on this side here. And as far as the elevation, we drew one elevation just to show the front of the building, main entry, windows, and then the overhead doors, which would be pretty much mirrored on the other side other than the entrance. The doors are 16-foot wide by 14-foot high, big enough to get, your largest vehicles in there. The anticipation would be that the building would be sprinklered. If you don't sprinkler the building, then you would need to put up firewalls between every third bay, which is a nightmare because the firewalls need to be 3-hour rated. You need roll down doors, all kinds of things. Our preliminary investigation on site looks like there's sufficient water to do a sprinkler system. So that's the plan, best way to go. And then looking at the overall square footage, it looks like the building is about the Washington County share is about a 40% of the building, and the town would be about 60% of the building roughly at this point. So that's pretty much the building square footage and design. I don't know, Beth, if you want to take over, or Kevin to take over to talk about the site work, or I'm not sure what you want.
Yeah, I'll give a little overview of the MEP systems in the building before we go outside to the site. Just based on the layout here that John's got set up, the center core shared spaces and the break rooms and the storage rooms and so forth. We have that area being served by an air handling unit that would be serving pretty much that entire center column space. And then the mezzanine above, we'd have a unit heater. So you'd have heat and you'd have electric air conditioning. We'd have condensing units for AC as well. We'll probably put a small split unit in the break rooms. And then the bay areas, the truck bays, the intent is to provide a radiant floor system. So you have your heat with the radiant floor, and then there'll be unit heaters that would be scattered for some sort of direct heat control, especially when you're opening up the overhead doors, so that you don't get, a temperature fluctuation throughout the space, and try to cut that off as quick as we can with some unit heaters around the door spaces. There is an alternate in the project to potentially take a look at a ground source heat pump system, and potentially look at some infrared heaters, which would be the type up more at the ceiling elevation. We typically find sometimes those radiant systems can be a little challenging with coordinating with truck heights. So we're a little more interested in pursuing the radiant floor option, because that keeps a lot of the equipment out of those central spaces where the trucks are going in and out, to keep as much clearance in there as possible. And then taking a look at, electric with power and lighting. Obviously, it'll have all the newer style LED lighting. We'll coordinate, like John said, with the drops for power, so you'll have those at the various locations. And then from a plumbing standpoint, we've got hose bibs scattered around. We've got the compressed air system throughout, so you'll have those at your drops. And then we'll have, as John mentioned, a full sprinkler system as well, covering the entire building. So Kevin, you want to talk a little bit about the site?
Sure. If you could scroll down, to one of the first site plans, that's great. Yes, so I'm Kevin Kelly with Weston and Sampson. We are doing the site civil portion of this. And we started by taking a look at the site, seeing how the existing buildings are being served by different utilities, taking a look at the overall layouts, looking at soils, looking at grading. So as you are all aware, I'm sure, the two facilities set up close to State Route 149, and we're looking at probably the best option of keeping those functioning, keep them working, while you build a new shared facility behind them. So this existing condition shows approximately where that could be. Let me see, as far as utilities, it's fed by overhead wires to the existing buildings. And when we get into the proposed unit or the proposed plan, I'll discuss that a little bit more. There is an 8 or 10 inch existing water along Route 149. The tank is to the west, not that far away at an elevated point. So we are assuming that there is both adequate flow and pressure to serve this building without any problem, including fire protection. So we would be looking to connect to that water for potable water and for fire protection. And when we get to the proposed plans, I'll talk more about that. Currently, there is no natural gas in the area. So the existing situation is using oil heat and I guess some heating possibly within the buildings with electric. And so we'll be looking at how we're going to potentially adjust that with the proposed conditions. The site generally—
We'll have some propane too, Kevin,
Yes.
just to interject that.
Yes,
Yes. Our intent is try to get some propane tanks on site
Right.
for some of the heat as well.
For the proposed. So if you could go down to the next plan, it's a little closer up. Thank you. On the existing county portion of the site, there is a salt shed that is a concrete block type structure with a wood frame roof. At kind of towards the rear of the site there's an existing salt loading area. Sorry, it's about there, great. Which allows, moving salt up to that point, and then a truck drives underneath and it fills the bed and takes out any debris. In the proposed condition at this point, we're talking about keeping those facilities as is. And to the left of the county building, kind of in the northwest corner of the little portion there, is fueling. There's an existing diesel above ground tank and gasoline tanks. We're talking about keeping those also intact at this point. There's no plan to relocate those 3 pieces at this point. There is room, and we have planned for the possible relocation of those back at the new shared facility if at some point you want to redevelop the front of the site. As far as the soils and the grading, to the north and the west are residential properties. Along the western property line, there's kind of a wooded glen type of area that we want to protect and stay away from. The site generally from the buildings, the existing buildings towards the road, drains towards the road, and there's a roadside swale that carries water to the east. Back on the site, the site generally tips from west to east, or on this page from left to right. Along the right side of the property is high tension lines corridor. And then some of the site at the very rear of the larger site drains to the north and to the west. So the soils themselves are there's more information in the report about it, but they're basically silty clay soils, which is, if I'm sure you guys are all aware, is very common up here. So there's a couple things to consider with that. One being that the soils will not allow infiltration, not a high rate of infiltration. So that'll impact the design of the septic system if it's on site. It also will impact the design of the stormwater management areas so that we can meet guidelines by New York State, which may we'll present several options for meeting those things. If we're in a sandy site, it would be easy to do both. So, we'll look at options as we go into the proposed plans. I think overhead electric serving the buildings. And then behind the Fort Anne building, there is a stockpile of materials that we're planning on, keeping that functioning as it does today. And the other things, let me see, the existing sanitary systems to serve both the county and town buildings currently are on-site septic systems that there haven't been problems with, apparently, and they're probably below some of the paved areas towards the front of the site. The existing water service for the buildings, I understand, is existing wells. I hope I covered everything for that. Do you want to go into a proposed site? Does that sound good? Okay. So this plan is, a little bit larger scale overall. You can see where the proposed building that's kind of orange colored sits on the site behind the two existing buildings. And like I said before, so that it can be built independently and keep the two buildings up front functioning as they do today. Let's see, probably would be good to go to the next slide if you could. It's a little closer. Yeah, that's great. Thank you. So the orange is the new building. One request that was made was that we segregate access to the site so that the shared facility would have its own entrance so that it wouldn't interrupt access and potential future use of the front of the site. So as you can see, we've put a new driveway entrance there, which would lead back to the facility, kind of parallel to the high tension wires, provide some parking for visitors and users on the site. And then, as John had pointed out, the main entrance is kind of that center core area. There's handicap parking there, and that would be the main entrance for the building. We provided access around the building so that, as John was saying, you can provide pull-through access on the bays, which allows much more versatility. You can, if a bay is empty, you can pull in with a wrecker, bring a vehicle in, and then the wrecker can continue out after they drop the vehicle. Or you can have two vehicles enter from either side. You can store a lot of the vehicles inside under cover. Just a lot easier to use the building and the function. What we're showing here is also, let me start in between, as far as utilities, in between the two existing buildings for the county and the town. We're looking to tap the existing water line that runs along Route 149 and bring it up between the two buildings. Yeah, thanks. The idea being that this could increase fire protection for the existing buildings in the short term. It will provide water and firefighting capability for the proposed shared facility. And then any other development that may occur on the site in the future, it will provide a reliable source of water, a new source of water for fire protection, for any uses. So if in the future, the two existing buildings that front on Ann Street, if that space becomes available for other redevelopment, you've got a good water source right there. It also can be extended to the rear of the site so that you could host other uses at the rear of the larger site. As far as electricity, we're just going to go overhead, put a couple more poles, bring it in, right? And then in front of the building, drop and go in underground to the building to serve the building. At the rear of the building, kind of off of that common core space that both users in this case are going to be using, we've shown an on-site septic system, kind of traditional, and yes, up in that area. And if needed, we will, we'll have a septic tank and a pumping station to make sure that works. One other option that is a possibility and could be considered is to put in a pump station, and I understand there's municipal sewer down available near the car wash. So there's a possibility of putting a force main approximately, I think it's about 2,000 feet to that area and tie into the municipal sewer east of the site along Ann Street. As far as stormwater, we're going to try to keep it as simple as possible. Sheet flow off of the pavements, collect in swales, and then in that area right there, that's stormwater management area 1, we would collect and start to treat the water. And for the front of the building, we have a secondary stormwater management area, which would be probably a depressed swale type of thing. If we have good infiltration, then we can do a lot of work meeting New York State guidelines for stormwater management just with that. If the soils don't work for us as hoped, then we can look at things like bioretention or other systems to meet New York State requirements. Yes, the cursor you're showing right now, ultimately we have an outfall to the existing wetland and swale along Fort Ann Street. Let's see. As Beth mentioned earlier, we're talking about a series of tanks for a source of energy for the boilers and needs inside the building. So we would place them outside. I think that's about it. Thank you.
Matt?
Did it say, Matt, that these two current buildings are both on wells, but on 149 currently there is municipal water and municipal sewer?
There's municipal water not far up because it comes right down, the tower's not far. The septic is down the road farther to about where the car wash is.
We probably put the wells in because the municipal sewer water wasn't there when we
Yeah.
first
Yeah,
moved in?
however many years ago.
Gotcha, all right, thank you.
Dave?
Question, anticipating future electric vehicles, enough consideration to put enough lines in there to carry the voltage that's going to be needed for charging stations?
That's definitely something we can look at, and yes, definitely.
Hate to tear the asphalt up in the future, bury it now.
Jay?
Yeah, I'm not sure if I'm missing it in the plans or not. Does there need to be a central drainage catch system for all the runoffs on the trucks and stuff that go into a holding tank? Or does that not apply to this area, these trucks?
So for to meet stormwater management guidelines for the state, well, there's actually two pieces. So inside the building, like in the wash bay, there'll be a floor drain that would come outside, probably most likely outside to an oil water separator. And that would catch, any volatile organics and oils, grease, everything, anything like that. Then the kind of cleaned effluent would go into your septic system. as far as the salt and anything outside, part of what the stormwater management practices are going to do, there's kind of a couple different goals. One is to catch and detain any increase in the amount of runoff so that you don't cause flooding downstream from the site. So we're talking right now about some depressions that could collect that, hold it, and within 48 hours, dewater. So it would slowly release it to the existing drainage channels. The other piece is infiltration, which helps clean up any debris that's in the stormwater. So it's particulates that are in the air that get washed in. It's oil and grease that may wash off the pavement, the little bit that could come off there, and also catch any sediment so that doesn't go downstream and lose topsoil and things like this. If we are not able to get good enough infiltration testing in those stormwater management areas with the existing soils, then we'll probably look at using some bioretention where we bring in a soil that's more conducive to infiltration. We'd have to do an under drain to collect the water ultimately. And then it would be planted with grasses, possibly shrubs or trees, which would uptake phosphorus, nitrogen, any materials like that, and they would biologically break down. So that ultimately the outfall would be cleaner water.
Dan?
Yes, it wasn't clear to me, but you might have mentioned it. On the electric and the water and the heat, are they going to be just one entrance coming in for all three of those, and then the town and the county will divvy up the difference, or are they going to have separate entrances?
That would be a negotiated thing at that time, but the idea of being a shared building would be one coming in the building, and at some point we would negotiate with the town of Fort Anne, we're a partner at the advantages of what we're paying. That answer?
Yeah, I was just curious which way it was going.
Does anybody who's not in the room have a question? Because I can't see you. Oh, Sam, I can see you.
It's okay. On this total project, there's about 14 plus acres in the parcel of land we're at there. And starting with leaving the old buildings at the front from 149 back to the furthest point here of the project, approximately how many acres of land is that going to encompass?
Let's see, could you go back to the previous slide? And that'll give you a little bit better feel. So the red outline on that drawing is the entire site. So,
okay.
And in total, including the parcels up front, let's see, I think in aggregate, it's about 16.9 acres altogether. So I would say roughly half of the site would be unencumbered at this point. So that would allow for future use back there.
Thank you.
Yep.
Daryl?
Yeah, question on
All right, next, John.
building.
Daryl's first and then you, John.
Oh, sorry. Green space you have around the designated parking area, is that essential to your stormwater runoff? But what's the purpose of that, please?
At the end of the proposed building up in that area
Sir.
there. Yeah, part of it is it could be used for preliminary filtering of runoff if we depress those areas slightly. It also just makes it a little bit friendlier for parking in the summer if we have a little bit of shade. Those parking spaces are at a premium. And we also can take for stormwater management, we can take a credit for every tree we plant for uptake of water and sequestration of nutrients. So we get a little bit of a credit if we plant.
John Roselle?
And the other reason is that we've tried to keep the car movement kind of separate a little bit from the truck movement around the building so that there's less conflict. So by providing those islands, we create two places where the cars would be leaving and would have a stop sign before they enter the space that the trucks are using.
Okay, no, thank you. Just
Mhm.
my concern was that we're introducing maintenance issues later on. You know, when you're driving a big plow truck, navigating around that green space, those curves will quickly become kicked into your sediment settling areas. But and then you got to take the time to mow. But that's a design consideration. So thanks.
Yeah.
John, did I hear you ask to say a question?
I have a new question here. The 40-inch section of the barn is on the right. Their yards are on the left. So they'd be driving by the counties to get to their yards. Could you turn that building the other way? Would that make a little more sense?
I don't believe there's a problem if we could do that. We could mirror it so that the 6 bays were on the left and the 4 on the right. Is that what you're thinking?
Yes, I think
Yeah.
I think you're going to have conflict with the town trucks getting to their yards, with the county trucks going in and out, and whatever. I just think it'd be easier
Okay.
for the town to be next to their yards.
Okay. Thanks.
Dana Half had a question.
Dana?
Thank you. I can't see the profile of the building. Is the building tall enough so that each tandem axle plow truck would be able to raise their bed fully inside the building?
Let me go back to the elevation here. Yeah, we haven't done a section through here, but we're probably at 22 feet roughly to the eave. It goes up from there, so we can take a look at that and make sure that it works.
Well, you know, if you have trusses going across, you'd have to have almost like a scissor truss or something, but you have to have enough height so that the dump body can be fully raised without maybe going into the center of the building where the ridge is. But my town barn, you can fully raise the truck bodies, and it's very nice to be able to do that. Some barns you cannot raise the dump body.
Right. Our intent on this building is it's going to be a metal building, so the structure is going to slope up with the roof. There won't be any flat structure along here. So once you're inside the building, it'll be fine. But we'll take a look at that and confirm it.
Okay. Also, what will be shared? Will the fuel island be shared? Will the materials handling be shared? Does each entity have their own screen for loading the trucks? Do they each have their own fuel?
Really? Where did you head like up towards?
Currently, I
Idea,
believe.
Dana,
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
idea would be we'd be sharing those services and figuring out a way. We were gonna work with the Putnam model where we share that stuff. And, you know, if it's the county's file, the town would pay so much. And vice versa, if it's the town file and we're using, we pay so much. We were gonna try to model it after the Putnam, where the idea was not to have 2 of everything, one of everything.
But
And bill accordingly.
if you look at that screen right there, the traffic flow is going to prevent that, because you're going to have landscaping that's going to make it very hard for the town to come to the county fuel island. You only have one screen, but yet the town uses sand. The county only uses salt. So I see a problem with the screen if you're both going to be sharing the screen with different materials.
All right, so I guess back up a little bit. So if they're using sand and we're using salt, that's 2 separate things. Like, there wouldn't be a cross. They'd have a screen for sand and we'd have a screen for, only the things that we use the same would be together.
Okay, thank you.
So there, I don't know where the screen is on there for their sand. Obviously they have one for or something up there, and we didn't plan on getting rid of that.
Matt Hicks?
This just came to mind, it's probably pretty trivial, but we've got 23 parking spaces for employees and visitors. We got 10 truck bays, that's 10 guys, a couple superintendents. You're gonna have 12, 15 people there tops. I just know at our town barn, I don't really want visitors. I mean, we don't want people coming onto our facility for liabilities. If they're gonna come, they should park in the very front by the handicap spaces. Do we need that many parking spaces on the right-hand side?
Currently with the layout,
I know you later on, it's just that, well, we try to limit our visitors.
Sure, I think 23 is just what happens to fit there. I think the parking was at that end of the building, and because of the width of the building, that's how many spaces. We didn't ask for 23. It just happened to be that much space, so.
Okay.
We
made it smaller, maybe.
We could redesign it so there's 12, I guess, or, you know, however, but we don't want to make more. And I think as far as like the handicap, that's stuff that we're going to be, now.
No, I understand that, but when you have visitors, they can park where the handicap spots are in the front, because you want them to come into that mezzanine.
Sure.
I don't want visitors to go around back and then wandering around while trucks are moving.
And like you said, we're not inviting visitors to our.
Right, we're trying to limit that as best we can.
Now,
yeah, at this concept level,
pull their trucks out and use it for a local, you know, pull their trucks out and use 3 bays for, you know, a town.
Use ours for a rabies clinic.
Sure, rabies clinic or whatever, so. On our end, I fully agree.
If we shrunk it down, it may mitigate some of Daryl's and John's points, that gives us a little more room. That's all, just a thought, nothing major.
I do know from other DPW sites that you do want a barrier between your parked vehicles and your trucks. We don't need to be running into personal vehicles because it was slimy. You gotta have some sort of separation of where you're parking your personal vehicle.
Our town hall is, or our town garage is a polling site, so we have to pull everything out, and the public has to be able to get in there. Yeah, 2 different districts and 1 polling site.
And
In
your smaller towns, man, I mean, you find that there's a central hub, and if Fort Ann doesn't have one, they may use it until someday they have one.
Big meetings, we have town hall meetings, town meetings there when we have more than 20 people. We have to go to the town garage. Dave, you had another question?
So the question is there provisions made to park equipment inside too? These plants, such as loaders and
Yep, so
backhoes, graders?
for the winter.
I see a lot of the trucks parked out in some of the places.
That's right, so
Foreman's trucks, those.
4 bays, I can speak for the county, you know, the town end is their town, but the county end, we are gonna have a bay for storing the loader and everything inside that we get stuck outside. Possibly, whatever we can. The other item that, in our side, that we have the design in there is a sign shop. So the sign shop that's currently here is crammed in, so 1 bay, because if you're gonna do 4 doubles, we're gonna take 1 bay, which is your top left-hand corner of the screen right there. That would be the new sign shop. There'd be a small mezzanine for storage. He'd be able to back his truck in, load up for the day for signs, and go in and out. So that is something that's in there also that would come out of this building.
Gerald?
But I think that keeping the structures that are currently existing also give us storage, I guess.
Well, so we can decide whatever we want as a county. My opinion is if we keep our building in such poor shape, we're gonna have to maintain a building that is, we're gonna put money into a lot of it. It needs a roof, it needs structure issues, it needs, you know, so we designed the new building so we didn't have to keep the old building. And I believe Fort Ann is in the same boat, you know, as Conceptual, I almost know. Their plan is not to keep their old building. It was to build something new, you know, and incorporate those, and they would go away. So we're not spending maintenance money on an old, it doesn't matter what you store in there, if it leaks, there's no heat.
Yeah.
That was my opinion, that's how we designed it.
Yeah, just a lesson learned from the what we have in Putnam is, you know, you get the ancillary pieces of equipment. Eventually, you do run out of space. You know, when we have our houses, our garage should probably be 3 times the size of our house. We're now looking at potential options for putting up just a storage shed, roof and something to keep those items of equipment with trailers or whatever.
I would contend that you're 100% right. If down the road, we needed some sort of cold storage or something, I think it would be cheaper to build a cold storage than it would be to try to update the buildings that we have, the building we have. I think you were on that tour, and the idea we're looking for a new one is because we really can't maintain that building. John, what else?
John?
Well, for the parking, I know here, for the county crew and the town crew, you're gonna need at least 10 parking places. Just for the workers. So I don't know how many actual ones you've got there, but I agree with Matt too. You don't need a lot of public, but there's gonna at least need to be 10 for employees, if not more.
Do you ever have, or would you have the need to have residents come in to do like recyclables on the weekend, or would this facility, have a need for that type of thing?
No, not on the county end. The Fort Ann, as the county, remember, some of this design came from feedback of what Fort Ann also needs. So we are a partner into this, so some of these questions I can answer. Maybe we don't need 23 parking spaces, but I don't know what the town of Fort Ann, 60% of this building is theirs, and they can use it for whatever they want. We're gonna use our 40%, and we're pretty confident that we're not gonna do recycling or have extra people there or need that many parking spots.
Okay.
But all this came into design because of partnership with Fort Ann.
3.5?
I disagree. I think you need the large parking because this building could be an emergency shelter. If something disastrous happens in Fort Ann, a large tornado, the firehouse is not a good emergency shelter because it's going to be full of first responders, and you don't want to mix responders and refugees. My town barn is an emergency shelter. In case something bad happens to the school, and the school cannot be the shelter. So I think you need to look out into the future for some contingencies. And, you're talking, 13 spaces here? You have 10 for the employees. You got vendors coming in with materials, selling stuff. You got to have room for them. Repairmen coming in. So I don't think the parking is too out of order here.
Anybody else have any questions?
Yes, sir.
Brian?
Yeah,
Sam.
Cassie.
Go ahead, Sam.
Yeah, the Fort Ann has 9 employees that will be parking there. My concern with them too is to make sure that the parking lots are wider than a standard one, because most of the employees now drive the big F-250 trucks or whatever. So there's not any room, even when you go to open up your door, for them to get in and out in the park. I mean, we experience that out here in the front of our building now, so it would be the same carryover there.
Brian?
Oh, let him go ahead first, Cassie.
No, just what we're showing is 60-foot wide double loaded bays. So we could definitely widen them to 10 feet. We're showing 9 feet right now. Do you think 10 feet would work for you better?
Yeah, I don't know. I'm just,
Yeah.
I'm not into measuring the mirrors and stuff on the newer trucks, but the
Right.
bigger trucks that they drive as, for their own vehicles are bigger than what we traditionally would be driving.
Okay.
And by the time the mirrors are up or folded, I mean, there's no, you can hardly get out of the car, get out of the vehicle.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
that's my only thought. If we're doing it new, we make those, if we got the same area, we may just be making those bigger and have less spaces.
Yeah.
At least on a
Okay.
few.
Very good. Thank you.
Go ahead, Brian.
Okay, so one question I have was on the first stormwater management area 1. You mentioned something about treating the water. I'd like to know where what type of treatment we're talking about.
Okay, so the two pieces, the management area 1 and 2, really work together. The pipe between them is kind of an equalization thing. it's basically available space where we can create a depression to catch the water, right? Deliver it from a swale along the edge of the pavement to those two locations. And the treatment would, the kind of twofold. One is the state requires that you don't release more water quicker than the existing site. So generally that means you detain some water, usually by a basin is the cheapest way, just by holding it back a little bit and letting it go gradually over the next 48 hours or so. So that would be like the first function, the first part of meeting the regs. The second part would be treating the stormwater. And basically that's filtering out any materials like topsoil, silts, sands, and any volatile organics. So anything that washes off the pavement from like oils and stuff.
Okay, so it's more filtering than it is adding something to treat it with.
Right. It's not an
Okay.
active treatment like you might, like for sanitary or something else. It's definitely biologic. It's a,
Okay.
kind of a, yeah. And then
And my
it also,
second question.
Yep.
My second question was Dave O'Brien mentioned electric vehicles, and the state's pushing hard right now to adopt a California law, which, cars are not that far along, but they're trying to push every essence of vehicles in Department of Public Works to be electric, and we don't see it happening right away. But on the other hand, they're saying by 2023 that 10% of each type of vehicle, and there's like 7 types. So like if you buy 3 trucks, you got to buy one to cover 10% that's electric, which doesn't make sense to me, but hopefully that's not coming that quick. My question is, with something like an emergency vehicle, you need a rapid charge type thing. I'm not sure if you can do that inside. I guess I've never seen rapid charge inside. If that is a possibility, I guess that's something you'd want inside, but I gotta believe there's gotta be space for that outside if you've got to charge all those vehicles during a snowstorm to put them back out. So just a consideration. It's way above our knowledge of that situation, but it looks like there's a lot of power there with that main power line going by, and maybe Fort Ann's going to take the back of the property and build a solar field. I don't know. But it looks like power is not a problem, but how we get it and how it's related to the site is going to be quite important in the future if that's where it's actually headed.
okay. Thank you.
Dana Haff?
The new hydrant you have there, is that for firefighting?
Yes.
Isn't
Yes. So
Isn't it a little far away? And has the Fort Ann Fire Company been consulted? Because I think their trucks would come in on the new pavement and you've got the hydrant on the opposite side of the building. Has anybody from the fire company been consulted on the placement of that?
now this is very conceptual, right? We're looking at how we're going to serve the building and then some possible locations. That definitely is a piece that needs to be fleshed out as the plan goes forward. We definitely would want to get them involved and make sure it's going to, we can provide the services to make sure their job is easier and, more efficient. We've also, on the main line that comes up between the 2 existing buildings that we're proposing for tapping the water at that location at the existing driveway, we're showing a hydrant that goes towards, the Fort Ann building currently. And if that area gets redeveloped in the future, that could provide fire protection there. In the short term, we could put a lateral off towards the county, the county building out there. Although there is one hydrant already kind of at the entrance off of 149. You do have a hydrant there. Then we're showing a hydrant back farther on the site. In that location. We definitely will look into that more and all we need to do is add a lateral to provide hydrant on the backside of the building, right, for fire protection. Whatever the fire company would like to see.
Thank you.
Sure.
I think in some instances, you gotta have the hydrant far enough away from where the heat might be too, or you can't even hook to it.
You have to access it easily.
Yeah, you want it on the edge, right, on the edge of pavement so that it's easy access, but yeah, you got to be far enough away so you can get to it, yeah, to use it. Yeah.
Anybody else have any more questions?
No, well, we're not into the budget numbers yet, so.
Right. On this part.
But this part, I'm all set, just a quick reminder, this is the higher end. A lot of those details that we're talking about will definitely get fleshed out when you actually have it engineered. So that would be the thing. We're getting there. I mean, this is something for the engineers to work off of.
Okay, I guess we're done with this part.
I guess whoever, Beth, on your end wants to present the budget end, I think of it, what basically left. There is
John, you want to bring up the estimate?
the full presentation, that you guys are welcome to a full copy. If you just ask me, I'll get you copies of it to look over. It goes into more detail.
All right, Beth, do you want me to go through it? Do you want to talk about it or?
Sure. Sure, why don't you go ahead? You're a little more familiar with it.
Okay, and just to go back to the drawings, as Kevin mentioned, the conceptual drawings that we've done are very preliminary. We're just basically doing space planning and things like that. As we go along in the design process, there'll be several meetings with both the town and the county and local authorities and utilities to see where they want things. So this is just to get everything on paper, so we make sure we have everything there. Things will obviously get shifted around. We got some great information in the meeting today, so we'll make note of that and update the drawings as we go along. So as far as the estimate, we've had our estimator take a look at the building. If you look down, I guess the easiest place to look is the bottom line there in the gray. So we have pricing, it says 2020, but we're obviously not at 2020. I think should be 2022. So the base cost for the project right now is $5,581,000 for just the base price of the building. Then if you go, as we move towards the right, we have escalation for pricing. Again, with the things that are going on with COVID and in the world, unfortunately, trying to price out where these numbers are going to go is very hard to do. We're seeing pricing now of increases of 7% for materials. So things are really starting to go up. So we do have escalation in there for the project. We also have design contingency, because at this point, we think we have everything in there, but there's always something that either the town or the county may want. It's always good to have a number in there. We usually carry a 15% contingency. If we're good and we're on track, that design contingency could go down, or it could go up if there's an opportunity to do more. So in general, the total construction budget alone right now with the escalation of design is $7,510,000 for the building. Then on top of that, you'll have soft costs and incidental costs, and that would be the fees that would be incurred by the town and the county for, professional fees for any geotechnical work. If the existing buildings are going to be demolished, there may be asbestos, you have to take a look at. So it basically captures all the money that would be, permitting costs, things like that would be on the town and the county. So that's, it's a little high at 25%, but that's a good place to start. And then as we go along, these numbers usually get reduced. We also have a construction contingency set aside, which is basically for unforeseen conditions. And again, that's a number that we keep in there for once the building is under construction. You may want to do some other changes. There may be some things that need to get modified based on discovered, you start to dig and find out there's an old oil tank somewhere on the site, that you have to take care of. So we want to make sure there's money in there to take care of any things that may come up during construction. And again, if those things don't come up, that money doesn't get spent, but it's good to have it in there as a budget. So the overall total project budget for the facility right now is $10,140,980. And that number includes, as I said, escalation and anything else that may come up. If you look at the bottom, there's also some alternates that we have in the project for radiant heat in the floor. There's also we're going to look at geothermal as we go along. That's quite a bit more money. It's about $250,000 more we're estimating to do geothermal. But we'll look at those items, and that could be decided before you decide to go out for bids or put it in the project as an alternate. You bid it. If it comes in too high, then you can decide whether to do it or not. And then also an emergency generator, which someone mentioned this may be an emergency facility, so that may be something that you want to take a look at, for the building. So we'll work that into the project as well. So that is pretty much the budget. I think everybody's got a copy of the report. There's backup sheets to all those numbers that are in there, but this page is the overall summary of the project. I'll leave it up for any questions.
Any allocation, sir?
Dave?
Any allocation of the amount for the town, to the county?
We're assuming 60/40 on everything, generally, right?
We're assuming,
30,000 foot level.
so we're assuming 60/40. In the construction bid phase, you put out options, so like, if they're having a weld shop over there, you separate certain things. We're gonna have the, sign shop there, so that come in as an option. So you'd have a base price with all these things, so in the initial pay, you would be paying your share, but the base split 60/40.
Yeah, right
And
now.
Matt, those numbers are in the report part. I know it doesn't show up here, but the number break apart for the town and the county is up under the cost estimate narrative back in the report if folks want to see those numbers on page 11.
Yeah, Matt, and you're exactly right. We'll set up this project with several alternates so that both the town and the county can decide whether they want to spend more money on certain things. Like you guys may not want the sign shop or do it. That would be an alternate. So it could be in or out of the project. Same thing with the wash bay for the town, things like that. So as we go through the project, we'll have a series of alternates that help to decide at bid time which direction you want to go.
Al?
Matt, what do you think the demolition cost is gonna be on top of this for the old building?
I don't have that right now. I mean, in the soft cost, that was kind of wrapped into the demolition, but I would say,
What do you think it's?
we haven't done a hazmat survey on it yet, so I mean, it's really up in the air. Before you demolition anything, you have to have a hazmat survey done. And if it turns up PCB, asbestos, whatever we're looking for, that changes the price so drastically. If they go in there and there's not a lot of hazardous material, it's a much cheaper project.
Mr. Hinkie, Mr. Shaw had a Saturday, and you give them a couple pieces of equipment,
Yeah.
I think that cost down pretty good, I think.
I mean, I don't think they need very much.
We gotta get it down there and blow it up with tannerite,
Yeah.
He put it all in grand.
Estimate's in the 10 million?
It is. So the estimate of the building takedown, and John can speak for this, the total construction, then the total project budget. There's numbers in there for that. There's numbers built in there for that, and they are on the, higher end. So the budget cost is so we don't get caught with, expenses we don't. And my work with Emmy and John and stuff, all our projects have contingencies built into them.
Yeah.
And that's why most every project I've done with them has always come in under budget, because we build in that contingency, and then hopefully we don't. But it's way easier to have it than for you to come back in front of you every month and say, well, we need another, 200,000 because this came up, That makes for a long, drawn out project, so. I hope everybody's on board with that, you know? I mean, that's just a standard way of business, that, you know, in the construction industry.
Yes, we try to be
Day and a
conservative.
half?
I think you have to have a generator because they're the busiest during the worst weather, and it's a contingency here. You have to be able to raise the overhead doors, have the lights on. So I don't know why a generator is not built into the basic unit. Also, any demolition that has to be done, I don't think there's any demolition required on the location of the new building. So I think any demolition would not be shared. It'd be the responsibility of the county or the town.
Yeah, to answer your generator question, because it's obviously a good discussion point. We do have in there, we talked this around a lot, and the decision was to have hookup for a portable generator. Matt, I believe there was one potentially available. I think that's why that decision was made. So there will be hookup for a portable generator, but to your point, certainly if it's found that, you know, a permanent on-site generator is more applicable, we can certainly look at that as well.
I don't think at that price, 175,000, is it? I think we can get away with portable.
I mean, that's, so the way it's designed right now is we don't have any standby generators at any DPW building right now. But DPW is set up with tow behind generators that they can pull up to a building and hook up, you know, immediately. And in the storms since I've been here, I think we did it right here. There's the buildings, in between buildings and grounds and DPW, we have generators and we fire things right up and it runs the building. And once the emergency, now if you want an emergency shelter, that's a different thing. Emergency shelter isn't DPW firing up a generator to run the doors and the lights and the heat while they're gone. Emergency shelter, you would have to have a standby generator. So that's something farther down in the design. If you decide or that it's going to be an emergency shelter of some sort, we probably need a standby generator.
I think
Standby generator, half a 40 in. What's that? The price of that standby generator, you run
Well,
40 in.
Well, you don't even want to know what the cost run this one.
Yeah.
I just know what, I know. We'll need it for electric vehicle plug-in. I just know from being in the business that if you're gonna run a standby, you know, for a shelter, you're probably gonna pay. I mean, maybe that's a little conservative, Jay, but they're not cheap.
Any more questions?
I think unless anybody else has questions for the engineering, I think we'll let them go, and then I just have a couple before we close the meeting.
I have a question.
Day and a half?
This is for Brian. Brian, this cost is double what we anticipated, isn't it?
Not necessarily. You won't know till you go out to bid what our county cost is.
Well, we were throwing the figure around $5 million. It's 10.
No, 40% would be 4. And if it comes in at 8,
Oh,
you'd be at 3.2. So,
okay.
you know, it's just hard to know until you narrow that all down, Dana.
All right. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you to the engineers for the presentation today. We appreciated it.
All right, thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you.
Matt, you had some more?
Yes, so at this point, now that you've seen the presentation, we've talked about it, the next step isn't a money step, but what it is a step forward, and that's to go out to bid for engineering. But it doesn't cost us anything. I'd like a resolution to go out to bid for engineering, hinging on Fort Ann. They're gonna get the town's gonna get the same presentation in a couple of weeks. If they have a resolution to go out to bid for engineering, that price comes in, then we know what the engineering is, and that's where we start doing all the brass tacks. From that point on, we really start negotiating on what's what, and that's where we give the engineers their direction on all the alternates and how we pay for this. I think everybody's in the same boat. I mean, Fort Ann's in the same boat as us. They don't want to pay for our sign shop. We don't want to pay for their, you know, but maybe the wash bay is something we use. You know, stuff like that we will have to hash out, but this next step is just purely to get us an idea of what it's gonna cost to start engineering, and it gives us, you know, that's where the buy-in comes in from both parties, is when we have that number.
You have a question, Dave?
Where's the motion?
I'll second it.
Motion made by Dave, seconded by Daryl. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed? Carried.
All right, the second thing I have came up in government ops about the surveying for the property in the Middle Policy PW location. I did get a, proposal back. Unfortunately, it was off just a little bit. They gave me A, B, and I needed a C option, you know, so I had to send it back to them. What I'd like to do for time purposes, because of the timing, is get a resolution to be able to go to finance. Because it would go to finance anyway, say like up to 18,000 for the surveying and the staking and everything. I don't have the exact number. I had a number, and it's down here, but I need more than that, what we're gonna need, to start, talking to the neighbor and what the Roger and their lawyer said. So, I don't know how we move it forward, like up to 18,000, and then at finance, I'll have a proposal. It'll be the exact number.
Moved by Dave,
Yeah, I'll second.
seconded by Daryl. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed? Carried. Four?
That's all I have.
Okay, does anybody else? Dan?
Yeah, a couple questions, just, I don't know, maybe FYI for down the road. You discussed, or I mentioned, or questioned the other day if where you were on negotiations with the property owner, you said you were gonna discuss it.
Yep.
Today, was it gonna be in
So,
Public Works or here?
well, that'll be here, so that, we haven't negotiated with her because we need the survey of the property done first and all the lines laid out, and we need a survey of our property, a legal survey, before we can really negotiate any further.
So what you're surveying is our property, that?
We're surveying our property, which is also her property line, and it's gonna give us, they're gonna put markers of the proposed, piece. So when we walk it, it's exact. So when I negotiate, there's the pin right there, from here over will be ours.
And you still have a willing buyer or seller?
Yes, so we're in, negotiation, you know, Roger and her attorney are back and forth, and this is what we need done, so this is what we're getting done to start that process.
Okay, good. And the second question I have is, because of that, my question is on the Fort Ann barn. The property is on Fort Ann. How is that gonna be surveyed off and become
It'll have,
jointly owned, or how is that?
well, it's gonna have to be surveyed if there's gonna be, jointly owned. Anytime you do a property transfer, you know, unless they're gonna do the whole property, which those have to be transferred. But what's the button example on that? My understanding is.
Long-term lease with Putnam example.
Oh, there you go. And Roger can help us through that, you know, if we're gonna do a long-term lease with Fort Ann, so it doesn't have to change property hands. I think that would be the best way to go, you know, that'll just save us some extra steps and extra.
Okay. Nothing else coming before government ops? This meeting is adjourned.
No,
I'll trade places.
no.
Sorry, Dana, I didn't see you. Go ahead.
I thought we were going to discuss the things that were in place during the emergency order, like the plexiglass screens. I hear that they're gone now at the meeting room, but what about the thermo scan, the sign in?
I think that's for public safety this afternoon. That's public safety this afternoon.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, we're adjourned. Yeah. Yeah, that's probably good.
Why are they all muted? They're all muted.
And Sue, Brian, anybody here?
We can hear you now.
Okay, there we go. Fine. A year and a half into this, we still have technical difficulties.
And I can't do anything.
All right, we're still morning here. Good morning. We'll call the meeting Public Works to order. Is there a motion to accept the minutes from the February 1st meeting? So moved by Tim, seconded by Daryl. All in favor? Aye?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Jason, can you hear us?
Yes, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yep. Go ahead.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman. I have two end of the year budget amendments for 2021. The first one is to return activated sludge pumps from our general fund, 8110-599, to our operations, 8130-2090, in the amount of $11,200.
Okay, is there a motion to move that? Okay, motion by Tim, second by Daryl. Any discussion? All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Second amendment is amend the 2021 budget to correct the budget shortfall for small tools. It's currently under our general 8110-59 to our operations unit 8130 to 2285. That's for under supplies. Small tools in the amount of 300.
Amount of 300, okay. Is there a motion?
Motion.
Daryl moves it, second by Tim. Any discussion on that? All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Is there anything else?
That's it, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Thank you for waiting. All right, good. Go ahead.
So, we have some awards of bids that we would like to make. The first one is 4 Dodge Durangos for the sheriff patrol cars. The low bid is $42,400.98 each.
Where are they from?
Oh. Falls Dodge, doing business with Joe, Checkonius Chrysler Complex. The second bid was almost $4,000 more than that.
Is there a motion to accept those bids?
No, take that motion.
Moved by Dave, second by Daryl.
Yep.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Okay.
The next one is to award an Investigator vehicle, and that is for $36,537.10. That we piggybacked off the Onondaga County. We got a pretty good price on that for Dodge Durango from Robert Green.
Okay. Is there a motion to accept that bid? Moved by Daryl, second by Cassie. Any discussion on that one? Dana?
Deb, they're the same vehicle. Can you explain the difference in cost, what the interceptor vehicle the sheriff needs versus the investigator? Because there's, what, 42,000 versus 37,000, I think it is. What's the difference?
A lot of it has to do with the upfitting package for the patrol cars. The investigators don't have the cage in their cars generally. That's a difference. It's a totally different setup. It's the same vehicle, it's a different setup.
Okay, thank you.
Anybody else? Okay, all in favor? Aye?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay.
I have to back up a little bit on that because we put this investigator out to bid at the Tahoe, and it came in at $52,978.56. So we thought that was too high, so that's why we reached out and, found a better way to procure this for the sheriff's office. So I believe we need to reject that bid, is that correct? So can we reject that bid?
This was, excuse me, the one that was awarded previously?
No, it wasn't awarded, but,
I don't know which one we're talking about. The
well-
one that was brought to committee last time? The one that I brought to committee?
so, I don't know. It's on the list for, Barb to reject at public works.
That's the first I've heard of rejecting,
Okay,
so I don't know, sorry.
well, we're not gonna buy that one, just so y'all know, it's way too expensive.
If we didn't vote to accept it, or did we? I don't have my minutes from my last meeting.
There was a vehicle for the sheriff's office that I had brought to the last Public Works Committee to accept, that bid. And if that's the one you're looking, I don't know what the price, if it had to go to the full board.
The one that had to go to full board, that's probably what it is.
Well, it would have already gone to the full board at the last board meeting,
Okay.
if that was the one.
So do we have to reject it if we found a better price for it, if that's the one?
Mhm.
Make a motion to reject it.
Okay, Cassie has made a motion to reject it. There's got a second. Any discussion? All in favor, aye? Aye. Opposed? Full board already. All right. Okay.
Okay, so March 9th is the virtual rally for funding down at Albany. Well, virtual. We used to go to Albany. Some of you guys went down with us. Remember where we all wear the orange shirts and we... So I'll send out the link if anybody's interested in going. A few of you have gone before with us. The next thing I have is that we got 4 more rebates for the international trucks. So that's $40,000 towards the next purchase of our trucks. You don't have to act on that. The next thing on the list is, I don't know if you remember pre-COVID, our County Highway Superintendents Association is sponsoring the National Association of County Engineers conference in Buffalo this year. So back before COVID, we were gonna go to Alabama, and that got canceled and was virtual. Then we were gonna go to California, and that got canceled and was virtual. But we are actually doing the one in Buffalo this year. So I would like to ask if I can take my secretary with me to help us run that show.
That's budgeted, Deb.
Yes, it is budgeted.
I'll make a motion.
By Darrell, second by Tim. Cassie?
You couldn't go to California, but you're making her go to Buffalo, isn't that a penalty?
I know.
Alabama, California.
All the way to Buffalo.
And we're trying to get people to come and solicit, or, display at this one, and they're like, Buffalo.
Dan?
What is the additional cost, and is it in your budget?
It is in the budget. We haven't figured out the cost yet, because we didn't want to go through that until we knew if we could, but I can get back to you on it.
Any other discussion, questions? All in favor? Aye?
Aye.
Opposed?
And the last thing is, they will be quite happy about this. So we'll do is, we put the Shushan Bridge out to bid last Friday, and we would like to award it to Wind Construction as the low bidder. It's $2,584,863. There were only 2 bidders. The other one was D.A. Collins, and it came in at $3,148,280.70.
Motion, accept the bid. Motion by Tim, second by Darrell and Cassie. Discussion.
How much was our share in that?
It's the federal aid project where it's 80 for the federal, 20 upfront for the county. Usually Marchicelli has come through, and
But-
that's 15%, so it's a 5%.
5%, okay. More questions?
Jay?
Okay, there you go, Dan. Sorry.
Deb, did you say this was the Shushan Bridge?
Yes.
Thank you.
Anybody else? All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Opposed?
Nay.
Okay, noted.
That's all I have.
That's all you had?
Yep.
Okay, does anybody else have anything to be brought before the committee? As usual, I'm way quicker than Cassie.
Come right on down and do chores for me.
I have a-
Gina,
Quicker at that.
You know, we talked a lot about Dodge vehicles, and I can't believe Bob Henke didn't put in a little snarky comment, so I'm gonna do it for him. Deb, do any of our foremen drive Dodge vehicles?
Yes.
Do they ever put chains on the tires?
No. But
Okay,
neither
because
do you.
I learned
Or that.
I learned recently you cannot put chains on the front tires of a Dodge. There's no
You
room.
learned by experience?
Excuse me?
You learned that through experience?
Yes, I try to put chains on the front end of my neighbor's new Dodge, and they won't go on the suspension. It'll rip the suspension apart. So I just wondered if we ever put chains on the front tires of any of our Dodge vehicles.
Not that I'm aware of.
Doesn't make any difference what we're running anyway.
Brian, did you have a question?
Well, first of all, for Dana, I think they're supposed to be ramming things anyway. That's why they're called a ram. But second of all, Deb, you mentioned $40,000 in rebates. Was that on last year's trucks? I thought we had one certificate left, or do we still have 40,000 on rebates? I'm trying to understand where that was.
We have one certificate left on the last one, and we have 4 new ones. All certificates expired December 31st of 2023, whether they are on the first notification or on the second notification.
Okay, so we got more certificates now? I thought we used 4 last year. You're saying we got 4 more? Is that what you're saying?
Yes. Yep.
Nice. Excellent.
These aren't rebates, these are credits towards any future purpose, right?
They are pretty much credits because
Yeah, they're
we write
credits.
the PO.
Al's not getting any money, so you're telling me, right? He's not getting anything, we're not getting anything back to deposit, these are actually just credits available to us if we buy new trucks. If we don't buy new trucks, they expire and they're gone.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
They call them rebates, so they don't call them.
Yeah, that's very misleading, I think.
Oh, okay.
Anybody else? Any more questions, comments? Hearing none, meeting's adjourned. Thank you.